difficult some days. There's days when I just feel like the idiot that doesn't
All right, you guys, it's time for another season of Sister Wives where it looks like Robyn is going to feel like an idiot and Kody is going to act like one. Welcome if you're new and welcome back if you're returning. I just want to remind everyone before I get started, this is a recap and commentary channel. I cannot show you full episodes of Sister Wives. I'm really sorry. You'll have to go somewhere else, maybe Hulu, Discovery Plus, somewhere that actually has the whole shows. I can't do that here. I can only show very short clips. I do recap the best that I can, but sometimes I leave out stuff. If I do that, feel free to leave a comment below talking about what you think I missed out on or what your opinion is. I love reading comments, but please try to be nice. There's no reason to pick on the minor children that are featured on the show. Try to stay away from unnecessary name calling. But that is it. Let's go ahead and talk about the first episode of season 19 of Sister Wives. So the show starts out with a black screen that has some white text on it, and it tells us that they started filming this season in late 2022. Then we see 2 more sets of text, and it basically acknowledges Garrison and his passing in March of 2024. I think it's really important that they, number one, acknowledge it right away, but they also give dates, because I imagine some members of this family feel differently about their relationships before Garrison's passing and after. So I think giving us a little bit of a timeline there is really, really helpful. But after this, the show jumps right into Kody and Robyn being out there at the property. They're at Coyote Pass, looking around, trying to figure out what the future is going to hold for them. Kody fills us in on where he's at with his relationships with the original wives. He says that he doesn't talk to Christine, and he says that Janelle and him are separated now. And then when it comes to Meri, he says, we don't say we're divorced, but we aren't in a marriage, and I don't want to be in the marriage. So you can see it's just where we left off with the previous season. So Robyn and Kody are out there looking at the property, and the payments are brought up. We find out that they owe a big payment on this property, and if they don't pay it, they can lose it all. So they're out there looking around, and Kody looks at her and says, do you still want to build out here? And she asks him, don't you? You can tell that Kody is starting to question things, but Robyn just isn't seeing it. Kody goes further and he says the dream is over. Now it's just property they all own together. This isn't somewhere they're going to live as a family. After this, we see Meri, and she says it's been about a week since that breakup conversation that we saw in the last episode of season 18. So they really are just starting right where we left off, which is good. Meri says that the relationship with Kody is over, but they are still connected spiritually, and she is working on terminating that part as well. But for her, this is over. She just needs to sever that part of the relationship. It's interesting because it seems like Kody doesn't want to be with Meri. Meri's ready to end things with Kody, but there's still so much conflict, and it really is from Kody. When he talks about Meri, it's so negative. There is this part of it where he does acknowledge why Meri might have held on as long as she did, because he says he tried to work things out with her. So he was giving her mixed messages. He acknowledges it in this episode. He said he tried to rekindle things with her when they'd moved out to Arizona. But when he went to do that, he thought, why am I doing this? I wouldn't court or marry her now. I'm going to say this again, and I know I've said it before. There's no reason for him to be so mean when he's talking about Meri. At this point, the relationship is over. She's ready to go. He could be kind. There's no reason to be like, I wouldn't marry you now. I wouldn't want to date you now. I don't love you. He doesn't have to say that stuff. We know he doesn't want to be with her. He could say, hey, we had some good years that didn't work out. We're moving on. But no, he's going to be such a jerk about everything. And you can tell just right in the beginning, even though he doesn't start off too bad, you know he's got it in him. He's going to end up saying something that's just unnecessary and mean. During this part of the show, we do get to see a small confessional from Christine where she says that at one point she was worried about dating and being single, but it's really all going well for her. So she's doing good. Now back at the property, Kody and Robyn are still there, and they start talking about Janelle. Robyn says that this could be a year of healing for all of them, and maybe Janelle and Kody can work things out. But Kody doesn't agree. And then it shows Janelle, and Janelle says that there's been no improvement. She sees nothing improving between the two of them, and she's finding peace with her new life. So once again, the only person that's in denial about the relationship ending is Robyn, because it seems like Janelle and Kody are okay with this. They're okay with it being over, but Robyn's still out there like trying to be a cheerleader. I think it's time for Robyn to just let go of this. And as this conversation is going on between the two of them, it's clear they're just not seeing things the same. Robyn still views reconciliation and living on the property together as an option, but Kody's done. And we saw this during the last few seasons. We saw it with Meri and Robyn and Kody, where Robyn's just wanting it to work. But it seems like Kody is being much more honest with Robyn, and he's being a bit more assertive. Like, I don't see this happening. He doesn't need to pretend he wants to be with someone or hold on to a relationship if he isn't interested in doing that. I know a lot of us don't really care for Kody, but just like everyone else, he's entitled to end those relationships if he's not happy. As a matter of fact, I think for most of us, our issue with Kody is that he didn't end those relationships when he should have, right? Like, I wish he would have ended it with Meri earlier. If he didn't want to be with her, he should have ended that relationship. But he lets things linger, and then it gets hateful and hurtful. And that's the part of Kody I don't like. In this scene where he's talking to Robyn, I feel like he's being a bit more assertive with, I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think we're going to live out here. So I'm like, good for Kody. I'm glad Kody's being more honest about where he stands with everyone, and I hope that continues. I do want to put in this clip of Kody talking about getting rid of the property.
I got to be really honest with you. I'd almost rather scrap it or sell it and then just start again somewhere else.
I can't.
You can hear Robyn start to respond. She says, I can't. And then she basically shuts down the conversation. She's not ready to talk about them giving up the dream of being out there on the property together. While I do think Robyn thought they were going to be living out there as polygamist, like, I'm not one of those people that think her original plan was to get rid of all the other wives. I think she liked being the favorite wife. And in order to be the favorite, there has to be more than one, right? So I think she liked being in a polygamous family. But I also think when it comes to her being in denial about this, some of it is sincere, but I also think there's a part of it where she's playing the role that she created within the family. You know, we see Christine as the homemaker and the nurturer, and Janelle is logical, and then Robyn is the cheerleader, always rooting for the family. You know, this is what she sort of fell into. And so there's a part of me that thinks, okay, some of it might be sincere, but is there this other part that's who she's created? This is the personality she's sort of made for herself to have a place and have value with Kody. I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think down in the comments. During this part of the show, Kody brings up how he used to want them all to live in one house all together, and that was selfish of him. He thinks that this idea, the idea of them all living together, was the catalyst for the family falling apart. And I'm going to have to watch it or I will go off on this way longer than I should. But he still doesn't get it. He thinks him bringing up one house was the beginning of the end. They may have realized that they didn't want to share a kitchen and they didn't want to live together anymore. But they weren't throwing in the towel completely on their family. He is the reason the relationships ended. He was the beginning of the end for the family. At least in my opinion. I know some people will say it's Robyn, but I feel like Kody was neglecting them and not giving them the attention they needed. And by them, I mean the wives and the children. And those relationship issues, that's the problem. Not that they couldn't live in one house. Though I have always felt like they needed to live closer together to have stronger relationships. I thought that the cul-de-sac should have been the perfect situation for them. So I've always believed they needed to be a little bit closer together. But it's not the actual problem. If they really wanted the family to work and they all really wanted to be close, they would have made it happen. They would have made it happen no matter where they were living, but it wasn't working because Kody couldn't maintain relationships with everyone the way he should have. Not because of their housing situations. I just thought by now he would have realized that, so I was very surprised that he made that comment. They showed Janelle immediately after that, and she says that the relationship ended because Kody didn't seem interested in working on his relationships with his kids. So she doesn't bring up the one house issue at all. I bet none of them have even thought about the one house issue when they were considering leaving him, because that's just not the problem. I can't believe he brought that up. So it's going back and forth like it always does on this show, and it goes back to Kody and Robyn still out at the property, and Kody tells her it's not realistic to think Meri wants to live out here. You know, Meri's not going to want to live by them. That's just not realistic. And he says to her, the vision we had, it's probably not happening. So it's almost like we're having to work through this with Robyn because she's not realizing it's over. We end up seeing Kody do this confessional where he just throws himself the biggest pity party of all time. He basically says he doesn't fit in with his family anymore. There's not a place for him, and that he has relationships with some of his kids, but not all of them. And the relationships he does have, they're infrequent. I really love that he used that word, because that is how often he calls them. How often do you call your kids, Kody? I bet the answer would be infrequently. How often do you visit them? Infrequently. How often do you text them? Infrequently. Yes, Kody, that's why the relationship is infrequent. You use that word because that is the effort you're putting in. You're not trying to see them frequently. So your relationship is not going to be good. You're not going to fit into their lives because you're not there frequently. It's like he's so close to figuring it out, but instead of taking accountability, he places it all on the other person. I just feel like he's almost there. We just got to get him to hold himself accountable. After this, the show jumps to Utah, and we see Meltel having a baby sprinkle because she is expecting twins. She is 30 weeks along at this point. Janelle was invited, but she can't make it. Meri wasn't invited because we know from the last season that Meltel doesn't like Meri. However, Meltel likes Robyn, so Kody and Robyn are invited to the baby sprinkle. Christine says that it's okay if Meltel wants them there. It's okay, and she accepts that, Meltel has this good relationship with them. And she even expects that Robyn will be there during the birth of the twins as well. I'm not going to give my opinion on this. I'll just wait and read yours. So go ahead and leave some comments down below if you want to. I have really mixed feelings. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to keep moving on. We find out that Christine has not actually seen Robyn and Kody since before she left. So they haven't seen each other. And I found that to be really surprising because I figured she had to see them when she was dropping off Truly, right? Like, I imagine at some point they got out of the car and talked, but she says she hasn't seen the two of them since she left. And then Robyn says that the last time she saw Christine was telling her that she didn't want to have a relationship with her and her kids. So they really are not communicating. And now they're going to see each other at this baby sprinkle. So they're having this celebration, and then Kody and Robyn arrive. It's not nearly as awkward as you would think because the room is just full of people. So it's not as if they're just standing there and staring at each other. They're like mingling among the guests at the party. Robyn does say that she didn't greet Christine. So she didn't go up and say anything to her. And I'm going to put the clip in of her explaining why she didn't.
But I kept my distance and did not greet Christine because she told me she didn't want a relationship, and I don't want to push myself on her.
Listen, Robyn isn't my favorite person, but I think in this situation, she made a good decision. So Robyn didn't go to greet Christine, but Christine didn't go greet her either. So they just didn't talk to each other. And Christine explains it. She says she wasn't going to go greet them and pretend they were friends when they aren't friends. So it is what it is. I think it went fairly well. It could have went worse, right? During this part of the show, we find out that things are not going well with Robyn and Kody. Robyn says that this is the worst they have ever been in their relationship. And Kody says that even though Robyn tells him that she loves him, he's still questioning everything. He's questioning all his relationships because at one time he thought he had good relationships with Meri, Janelle, and Christine, and look how that ended up. So Robyn and Kody, they're not in a good place because of what has been going on with his divorces from the other wives. There ends up being this confessional with Christine where she says something that's sort of interesting. She says, it has to be awkward for them. They're the outsiders here. She's talking about Kody and Robyn being at that party. And it might not seem like a big deal, like it's just kind of a comment made in passing, but think about it. She's right. It's like Kody's saying his relationships with the kids are infrequent. He doesn't fit in because he doesn't have relationships with them. So when he shows up, he's the outsider. He's the one that should feel uncomfortable. He's showing up in a place with people that he doesn't see frequently, that he doesn't have strong relationships with. Maybe with Mykelti and Tony, but the other kids in the room that he doesn't see that often, he is the outsider, not Christine. She's the mom that shows up all the time. So them seeing each other may have felt awkward, but really it would have probably felt awkward for them anyway. Now, we all know in previous seasons, Kody has brought up how Janelle and Christine are bad-mouthing him. And he does that again in this episode. He says that Christine and Janelle are bad-mouthing him to the public. And if they're talking that bad about him to the public, it has to be worse to the kids. Whenever he brings this up, once again, it's like, come on, Kody, don't you see what's happening? They don't have to talk bad about him, right? His actions and inactions speak for themselves. Janelle and Christine wouldn't have to say anything, and we would all be able to watch this show and know who Kody Brown is and see him in a way that isn't good. That is the exact same thing with these kids. I think Christine and Janelle could decide to never say another thing about him, and those kids know their moms weren't treated well, and they know how they were treated and how their dad had changed throughout the years. He just can't see that it's not people bad-mouthing him. It's not the wives. It's not the one house. It is really him. He is the problem. After this, the show jumps ahead and we see Isabel, Maddie, Christine, and Janelle in North Carolina, and they are moving Isabel back home to Utah. She's been there with Maddie, but she's ready to come home now that Christine is living there. During this part of the show, we find out that Janelle and Kody haven't seen each other in months, and Janelle is fine with that. She doesn't miss him. She talks about how Christine thinks there needs to be this big breakup conversation, but she's fine. Janelle is doing well, and she feels like she's moving on with her life. So she doesn't really need that conversation to happen. When Janelle is talking about all of this, it just makes me think the whole situation with Robyn is even more bizarre, because if Janelle hasn't seen Kody in months, doesn't Robyn think that's weird and that the relationship must be over? I wonder if Robyn realizes how long Kody will go without seeing the other people in his family. It just seems very bizarre that she would think they're going to work it out. The only thing that would make Robyn's optimism make sense to me is if she believes that Janelle is having a hard time moving on. If she thinks Janelle is at home just crying every day because things didn't work out with Kody, then she might think, okay, they're both still angry and hurt and they're going to work it out. Maybe Robyn doesn't realize that everyone is ready to move on. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Let me know. What do you think is going on with Robyn? In this part of the show, we see Kody doing a confessional, and one of the producers tell him Janelle and Christine are together moving Isabel back to Utah. And it's clear that Kody didn't know this. He didn't know they were doing this together. And it has to kill him because if he was a good dad and had a good relationship with Isabel, he might have been there doing that. If he was in a relationship with Christine, they might have done that together. But now he has no relationship with any of them, and instead, two of his ex-wives are doing this. They're moving her as a team, and he's not involved. So I want to put in a clip of him reacting to finding out this bit of information.
Oh my goodness, the tables have turned so bad. Christine didn't want to live in the same house.
So you might be wondering why I chose that clip. Well, one, I wanted to show you how he was reacting physically. He's laughing. He can't believe this is happening. But then he goes into talking about how Christine didn't want to live in one house with Meri and Janelle. So he just can't believe they're all getting along now. You guys, I know plenty of people I would never want to live with, but if I had to pack up some bags and help move someone, I could do that with them. Him talking about their relationship in the past, he acts like that was something they were never going to be able to overcome. They were. Once he was out of the picture, they were able to get past those issues. Once they were no longer trying to live together, they were able to have a friendship and have a real family unit together. It really feels like when Kody's not in the picture, everyone gets along better. After this, we see Meri, and she is headed to Vegas to see a friend. When she is there with her friend, she breaks the news that things are over with Kody, and her friend basically says, good, like we all did. Like, good for you. Glad you're leaving. After this, the show takes us back to Christine's house there in Utah. Janelle and Maddie are there, and then Mykelti comes over. And of course, Mykelti's pregnant, Maddie's pregnant. They haven't seen each other in a long time, so they are doing some catching up. It's a bit like a small family reunion. We find out from Janelle during a confessional that Maddie and Kody haven't spoken in a while, and this was something that was brought up in previous seasons. Maddie doesn't want to talk to him unless he can commit to having some consistency in her life. She doesn't want some deadbeat dad and grandpa that only shows up whenever he feels like it. She wants a solid relationship with him or none at all. Now, when they ask Kody about this, he immediately shuts the conversation down. I'm going to put a clip in so you can see it.
Let's talk about Maddie.
I won't talk about her.
You won't?
Nope.
Okay.
Whenever I say Kody Brown has impressed me, I almost feel ridiculous because my standard is so low. It shouldn't be impressive. But it did impress me that he didn't talk about the situation and say terrible things about Maddie, because we know he has a problem when it comes to talking about his kids. He says stuff that is incredibly rude. I think he practiced restraint here. I think he might possibly regret some of the stuff that he has said about his boys in previous seasons. And I think he's holding back when it comes to talking about Maddie. And that's something we don't always see from him. They end up talking to Robyn about this, and she says that Kody is just really angry and he's not at a good place, but she does think that he should be putting in the effort to talk to his kids, and she also thinks that they should be putting in effort to contact him as well. Back at Christine's house, we find out that Maddie is considering making a move to Montana. They're going to be out there looking at some property, and Janelle is also considering moving with them. She doesn't feel like Flagstaff is a permanent place for her anymore, and I just think that's really exciting. I think the fact that she is ready to move away from there is going to be really good for her. It's during this part of the show where we get probably one of my favorite moments. It's from Kody. And again, it's just one of those times where he's saying something that's really, really ridiculous. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Doesn't he see what's going on? But let me show you guys a clip so you know what I'm talking about.
They know that I suffer from FOMO about my family. Fear of missing out.
Based on that clip, I think that Kody just now learned what FOMO was. And I'm a little bit worried that FOMO is going to become what gaslighting was in the last season. We heard that word a lot, and I'm hoping that this will just be an isolated incident. But let me show you the rest of the clip.
Anything they can do that excludes me is a punishment to me.
So if he is afraid of missing out, he has a fear of missing out on their lives and what is going on with them, then has he been living in fear for years and years? Because when was the last time Kody was that actively in all of their lives? It started crumbling in Vegas. Has he been living in fear all this time? I mean, if that's true, if it's real fear, no wonder the man is angry. But the reality is he removed himself from their lives. He chose not to be a part of it. He set up those rules that made it difficult to see his children. He is the one that'll go months without seeing a spouse, weeks and weeks without calling them, not showing up for surgeries when they need support, not being there for them the way he should be. He did that. He removed himself. So he doesn't have a fear of missing out. He chooses to miss out. Let me know what you guys thought when you heard that. Let me know down in the comments. I actually laughed out loud. It was almost comical to hear him say he has a fear of missing out when we know what kind of father and husband he has been. After this, we see Meri and her friend back in Vegas. They're talking some more. Meri talks to her friend about how Kody is saying that he never loved her. And Meri questions it. If it's true that he didn't love her, then why did he marry her? And she wants to know if he really didn't love her. Why did he choose her? Like, why her out of all those people? If it wasn't based on love, why would he follow through with it? And I think that's a valid question. Why did he do that if he didn't love her? It was unnecessary, and quite frankly, if he really didn't love her, it was cruel. So it's not making him look better to say this. It's just hurting her. And I've always felt like Kody loved Meri in the beginning, so I think he's being dishonest. I just don't really understand what he is trying to gain from it. But Meri actually has a theory. She says that Kody was trying to push her out. That way he wasn't the person ending the relationship. It was her that was choosing to leave. And there might be some truth to that, because we've heard Kody say he can't leave. The women have to leave. So maybe that's what he's been trying to do, but I don't think it's necessary to say that he never loved her. They do have a child together. This is the mother of one of his kids. There's just no reason for it. I will add that I think Meri is starting to get a little bit sassier. I think she's going to be more honest about what happened. I think she's really going to let us know how Kody truly is. Even though she says she's not going to say bad things about him, I don't think she's going to call him names and just say hurtful things like he's saying about her. But I think she's going to tell the truth. I think we're going to find out about the things Kody really did. So she seems to be much more bold this season. Her friend, the friend's name is Brandy. Brandy ends up asking her about the property and what the plan is. And Meri says she intends to get her part of it. So I'm really happy to hear she's not going to just walk away, because I have to admit, if I was her and in this situation, I would probably be like, I am done. Don't call me. I don't want anything to do with you. And I would probably walk away because I would want to be done with the hassle. I'm that type of person. Like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's over. So I'm glad that Meri is going to stick around and try to get her money or her property. Good for her. While Brandy and Meri are talking, they discuss the possibility that Kody is having a midlife crisis. And then during a confessional, Meri says this.
He's going to wake up one day and be like, wow, what the hell did I just do?
To me, it's wild to think this might be related to a midlife crisis, because I think of motorcycles and sports cars when I think of a midlife crisis. I think of someone divorcing their wife to marry someone younger, and Kody's already done that. He married a younger woman already. So to me, relating it to a midlife crisis seems like a bit of a stretch, but I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think down in the comments, and you can also let me know anything you thought about anything at all from this episode. I love reading your guys' opinions. If you haven't already, I hope you'll click like and subscribe and come back as we recap more of season 19 of Sister Wives.